Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Sarah Hutchinson at yogawisdomandwellness.com. This is my third vlog in my series about my experience with metabolic syndrome, which I was diagnosed with about 6 weeks ago. And stick around if you want to hear a little bit more about A, how I'm doing, B, what I'm doing, and C, I really want to talk today about depression. I want to tell you about my depression, how that fits into the metabolic syndrome, what I've learned about it, what my experience with it is. Now, you're probably looking at me saying, why is she talking about depression? She's not the kind of person that seems depressed. And we're going to talk about that because it's a very nuanced thing. But it's been real for me, and judging by what I'm getting on the email and the comment box below, it's very real for all of you too, that you may indeed feel there's something amiss with your essential health. So, just a quick review. 30 to 40% of us walking around have metabolic syndrome. Now, when you Google it, you're going to find everything from feeling really scared to like, oh, maybe it's not that big of a deal. Guess what? It's a big deal. It's the disorder of our time. It's a dysfunctional metabolism. It may be why you're getting a fat tummy. It may be why you're depressed and you're throwing all your meditation, your yoga, your Ayurveda, your vacations at it, and it's not budging. It may have something to do with your metabolism. Most assuredly, it does with mine. So, if you haven't watched the other videos, I'm going to do a quick review about what we talked about, because what I intend to do, how I intend to serve you through these videos, is to bring in some of the big overarching principles that are guiding me on this journey. And lots of people ask me, are you totally bummed out? I'm like, no, I'm totally excited to have a name for how I've been feeling, to have insight into my ancestral line and what makes my people sick and what makes them die. And we're going to talk about that more another time. I mean, it's been like a key in a lock. And I'm really, really grateful and blessed to have this opportunity to bring my health to the next level. Indeed, I feel on some level that I'm being repurposed to build more capacity in my mind and in my body, to do my work, to serve more. I don't know what it's for, but I trust it. And I embrace this as an opportunity even on the days when it's a little hard for me to get off the couch. And I am having those days. So, let's review the first couple of videos. First video, I outed myself. My New Year's resolution, one of them was to be more vulnerable. And if this isn't vulnerable, I don't know what is. Now, this is a concept. I want to give you a framework for vulnerability. The flip side of vulnerability, and I didn't write it, but I could have written courage on this side of this index card. Because it takes courage to be vulnerable. And when you're vulnerable, you've got to be courageous. And being part of courageous is being vulnerable, because how else are you going to find out who you really are and how your assumptions may or may not be true? You've got to get vulnerable. You've got to say, I don't know. You've got to have a beginner's mind. So I'm borrowing this from the Buddhists. This is such an important aspect. If you're me and you're going through this experience, or you're you and you're going through whatever experience you're having, please, a beginner's mind. A certain level of, I don't know and it's okay, will open you up and help prevent this affliction the yogis call avidya. You know, my favorite definition of avidya, it's in the Yoga Sutra, is it's not what you don't know that hurts you. It's what you do know that's wrong. So, please, if you're experiencing illness or emotional upheaval, whatever it might be, heck, if you're just experiencing life, have the courage to be vulnerable. Have a beginner's mind. This will begin to step you away from egoic tendencies that tend to often, in the labyrinth of life, take us to the dead ends. So I talked about that in the first video. I also mentioned the importance of eliminating dogma from your experience, from your worldview. So in my case, if I had said, I don't feel well and I've done everything yoga and Ayurveda have told me what to do and I'm just going to live with this, I would be being dogmatic that the yoga and Ayurveda were the only way for me to heal myself. Guess what? It's not true. And if you're following the news at all, you see there's a great Buddhist teacher in Canada, I'm sorry, I don't recall his name, just died from a fentanyl overdose, another victim of the opioid epidemic. This guy was a well-revered yoga and meditation teacher. And you can read his story by Googling it. Dogma, no bueno. Don't have it. Instead, I encourage that vulnerability. I don't encourage it. Life encourages it. And absolutely come at these things with a beginner's mind. Okay. Second video, I defined functional medicine. You can Google it, have a look. It's what I have chosen as my path. I'm also seeking Ayurvedic treatment for my metabolic syndrome. Am I doing one and not the other? No. Remember the Venn diagrams from math in school, where those two bodies meet, like the Olympic rings, and you get this shared area right there? That's it for me. I'm bringing together different rings: Western medicine, functional medicine, Ayurveda, yoga, and looking for the sweet spot where things overlap, because that indeed is where the potency is. So this gets back to no dogma, no bueno. And I did define functional medicine for you in the second video, as well as talking about metabolic syndrome. So if you want to go back and have a look at that, you can do that. I also mentioned the different things that I was using. Aerobic and anaerobic exercise are literally being prescribed for me. Yoga Nidra I've prescribed for myself. It is my go-to practice. My sitting meditation practice is challenging for me right now. I have a certain dullness to my mind as a result of the internal changes in my body chemistry that can make a sitting meditation difficult. I still do it, but I absolutely cherish my reclining Yoga Nidra practice. It's healing me and transforming this experience into a sweet nectar. So Yoga Nidra is big. I talked about my low glycemic diet. I also am involved in some significant supplementation under the guidance and monitoring of my functional medicine doctor. So that's what we've covered so far. And in this video now, I really want to talk about depression. One of the things that brought me to seek the diagnosis that I now have was my low mood that got lower and lower and wouldn't budge. Now, please remember that my mother and my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, both suffered from significant depression. It's in my family big time. And it's been one of the things that I've designed my life around, is creating a lifestyle that I knew would be favorable to me from a biochemical standpoint. I mean, it sounds really fancy, but let's just say this. I know that aerobic exercise helps my mind not feel sad. So I've always been an aerobic exercise person. Yoga, same thing. Lots of times in the out of doors. Living in Colorado with all the sunshine. These were all ways that I very naturally created what I thought of, I guess unconsciously, as an insurance policy against this depression that just stalks my family. So when it began to happen for me and none of my tools were really eliminating it, that's when I sought help. That's when I became vulnerable. That's when I stepped outside of dogma. And that's when I put on my beginner's mind and sought the help that I'm now receiving. So as I've gone through this first stage of the protocol with my functional medicine doctor, one day I just hit this low with my mood. And I was like, what is this? I contacted him and he taught me more about depression than I'd known by investigating it on my own. Specifically, what I want to pass on to you today is that there are many causes. Depression, as we know, is a big umbrella. I'm not here to give you a medical treatise. I'm here to tell you my own experience. And what my doctor, Dr. Brad Rackman, and I'll share his name and contact info in the written part of this vlog, shared with me is that I was suffering from a dopamine deficiency, dopaminergic depression. So I wrote it down here. I wanted you to be able to see it. Let me find it. I got the serotonin one here. I guess I didn't write the dopamine because I ran out of cards. So dopamine, which is what I was crashing with as a result of some of the inner changes that I was going through, dopamine creates the biochemistry of pleasure. It allows us to experience pleasure. And what I want to say to you is, looking back, I've had months now of feeling happy, but feeling less pleasure in my life. Isn't that interesting? I mean, I've needed and wanted to really reflect accurately and vulnerably on my mood. And I look back, and I would say for the last 8 or 9 months, it's been like, I'm happy, but things are not as pleasurable to me. Now, what's interesting about this is because I am a meditator, this is also described in the arc of our meditation practice, that we care less about the pleasures of the world. And so I ascribed it to that, and I was okay with it. But when I bottomed out the other day and called my doctor and said, what's going on with my mood? I'm like at the bottom of the tank. He said, you need some dopamine. So he got me started with, again, some natural forms of dopamine, and within 16 hours, I was back to feeling like myself. My pleasure response is still a little bit dulled, but it's not a problem. I'm not bottomed out. So my message to you is, if you have a low mood, recognize that it's something specific in your biochemistry, which may have been triggered by thought, it may have been triggered by trauma, it may have been triggered by events. This is a chicken and egg conversation, but we have a body, we are embodied, and our bodies respond to our environments. For me, I bottomed out on dopamine. It was a dopaminergic depression. I'm now on a dopamine supplement, and I feel better. So the other part to this that Dr. Brad taught me is that serotonin, and I do have a card for this, serotonin is responsible for happiness. So I don't have a serotonin deficit because I'm perfectly happy. I'm not faking it. I'm like a happy person. But there was something about this lack of pleasure, and when the bottom really fell out, that was when I was like, okay, something significant is going on here. So the reason I mention this is a lot of us might seek medical help for depression, and we might be placed on a prescription medication. It may or may not be a fit. We now have an emerging body of knowledge about neurotransmission, about heredity, and about the biochemistry of depression. So if you're suffering from low mood, spend some reflective time. Is it happiness? Is it pleasure? Is it both? And the more accurately you can report to your healthcare provider, the greater the chance of you getting, I would imagine, as I did, the proper treatment for that mood. Okay, so that's what I wanted to share with you today. My second set of labs, blood and urine, in the protocol that I'm in with my functional medicine doctor, are showing some improvement in insulin receptivity on my cells. So that's good news, that they're not so rusty, they're not so clogged with AMA, and we're going to talk about Ayurveda on the next video, that they're not responding to the changes that I'm making and the substances that I'm taking in. So there is some progress. Again, I've got months ahead of me of getting tuned in this certain way. I'll continue to keep you posted. In the meantime, watch out for dogma. Have a beginner's mind. If your mood is low, without getting obsessed about it, journal and be specific about what it is about your mood that's going on. If you're lacking energy, also keep a journal. When are you tired? In the morning, in the evening? How are you sleeping? Be deeply self-reflective. In that way, when you seek help from a qualified practitioner, you'll walk in as an empowered person saying, you know, Houston, we got a problem. Can you help me? And you'll see it not as a character deficit, but as a biochemical and physiological, as well as emotional experience. But you'll be empowered as you do it. And it's this empowered life that we all desire to lead, right? And even for me, with this experience of metabolic syndrome, my sense of empowerment continues to support me every day. And I hope yours does too. We'll talk again. I'd love to hear your response to this. Please leave a comment below in the comment box.